Hello, everyone. Welcome to IERLab Podcast. Who is IERLab? IERLab is the Influencer Ethnography Research Lab located at Curtin University in Perth, Western Australia. We specialize in the methodologies and the pedagogies of influencer research. I'm your host, Walter Lee, so let's get started with today's episode. Now, today we'll be focusing on Chinese rural influences, and today's guest is a lecturer at the School of Journalism and Communication at the Changzhou University. Her PhD project is about mobile use among third agers in China. She recently started focusing on the question, how do the aging influencers use digital technologies to empower themselves and change their lifestyles? But today we are focusing on her work on Chinese rural influences. Welcome to the show, Miss Chen Guo.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Lovely to be here. Hi, Walter.
It's great to have you here today. And I'm really looking forward to today's subject because it is something I was unaware of that was quite popular. And I know that we've done Chinese influences before with a previous professor, but I've never thought about Chinese rural influences. So I am very fascinated to hear what you have to say today. So my first question to you, Anne, is why did you choose this subject? And maybe was it a video that you watched? Was it something you heard from someone else? Can you tell me what inspired you to do this sort of subject?
Okay. As you mentioned just now, my topic for my PhD actually is about the third agers in China, which means I'm focusing on the aging population. If I say why I choose this subject, if I look back at this moment, I would say the first reason is homesick. I did my PhD at Perth, Western Australia, during 2016 to 2020. Meanwhile, Li Ziqi was quite popular. Lots about the news about Li Ziqi and the interview and the debate about Li Ziqi's videos. Then I began to watch some of Li Ziqi's videos, and I found a lot of Chinese elements in these videos, such as the food cooking style and the filial piety, and a lot of the idyllic sceneries, which can relieve my homesickness. Although my hometown is located in a small city, that is the first reason. Secondly, it is because of Crystal. At the end of my PhD, she gave me the opportunity to extend my academic interests from the third age, the aging population, to the influencers. I appreciate this opportunity very much. Now I found the combination about the aging population and the influencers, which is quite interesting too. Probably the creative combination will be one of my future study areas.
Oh, okay, that's quite interesting. Now, you did mention Li Ziqiu, I think that's her name, right?
Yes.
Yes, and can you tell me just a little bit about her, or for our listeners, who is this person?
Yeah. Actually, Li Ziqi is a lady from Sichuan province. She is around 30 years old. Before she did the YouTube influencer these activities, she was a worker. And then she came back to her hometown because she has a grandma need to be looked after. That's why she began to do the videos to show the rural life, the rural daily life, the lifestyle. And maybe, I think maybe also she never imagined her videos attract a lot of the followers. And then that's why Li Ziqi is here now.
She is very fascinating. I watched a couple of her videos, and we will talk more a little bit about that later. But we are focusing on Chinese rural influences. So, when was the emergence of Chinese rural influences, and what makes their content so attractive, so appealing, do you think?
Okay, when we talk about the Chinese rural influences, we cannot avoid the Li Ziqi.
Mm.
Perhaps the most prolific of Chinese rural influencers on YouTube is Li Ziqi, but she is not the first one. According to our research, the research has been done by me and Crystal. We found in 2010 and 2011, there were only 2 and 4 new Chinese rural channels documented on the YouTube, which means from 2010 and 11, there already have some channels we can name it as Chinese rural influencers channels. Maybe for different people, they have the different part. They think the appealing content is different. For the followers, many followers living in the cities, they have no idea but to suffer from the pressure and the burden from the job, the study, or the family stuffs. However, the portrayal of the idyllic life in the rural village and the romanticized snippet of the country life in the videos, which seems to provide a virtual, maybe I can say a virtual or digital window to breathe the fresh air for the followers. So I guess that is the reason why the content has amazed millions of the followers. Li Ziqi also attracted the researchers' interest. So for the researchers, the proliferating exponentially rural Chinese YouTube videos on YouTube is a new genre, especially for Li Ziqi's channel, whose followers has been fast passing the subscription numbers of major international media outlets like CNN and the BBC.
Wow.
Li Ziqi's international profile and the soaring popularity aroused more interests, the researchers' interests, to focusing on the production of and the reaction of to this genre.
Why do you like the videos? Is there something that you find interesting?
I like the Chinese rural influencers because a debate, actually. It's a very hot topic debate. On the Sina blog, we say like a Chinese version Twitter. Some people argue some people argue Li Ziqi's video is not true because that is not the real Chinese rural village. But the others say it doesn't matter it's true or false or fake. It's just to provide a nostalgia feeling, and it can empower the rural village to have a development or something. So because the debate continued last maybe for 3 or 4 months, so I followed that debate. Yes.
That's interesting that there is a huge debate online. What I'm interested in learning is, has these influences influenced Chinese citizens to move to rural areas? Like you said before, that there is a debate online whether the Li Ziqi, if she's she's not in a real rural area, but does she have the influence of moving Chinese citizens to rural areas?
I hesitate to say so, because the Chinese rural influencers, or maybe we say rural influencers, they will influence our lifestyle, yes. But just to have a trip to the rural villages, I have to say that the emergence and the proliferation of the rural village videos on various platforms have attracted more Chinese citizens to travel to the rural areas. It's kind of a break during their busy life, maybe like that. This is quite helpful for the Chinese rural tourism industry. And also there is a policy in China named rural revitalization strategy. Once the Chinese rural influencers has the same goal with the Chinese rural revitalization strategy, so many local governments will support these Chinese rural influencers. They design the parent-child trip or the family together trip to attract the citizens to have a short trip in rural village. But not so many Chinese citizens will move to the rural areas to start a life because their relationship or their house, their families, they are still in the cities.
So, like
Mm.
here in Korea, a lot of
Mhm,
people want to move to the countryside, the rural areas
mhm,
when they retire, but the older generation in Korea,
mhm,
they don't want, like who live in rural areas, they don't want new people living or even coming into their rural area because
mm.
it's sort of their sacred town or something like that. So there's a negative effect here in Korea. But
Uh-huh.
we have talked about on this podcast in previous episodes, the Chinese government has a firm grip on what content is allowed to be out in the world to see. Now,
Mhm.
how has the government taken to these sort of rural influences?
Compared to, say, the Chinese government has a firm grip on what content is allowed to be out for the world to see, I prefer to see maybe the people within China cannot access the information out of China easily. Um, but for the rural influences, as I mentioned above, China has a national policy of rural revitalization. In responding to the policy, China has put many efforts to promote this content actually. This is one of the reasons for the popularity of Chinese rural influencers on various apps, such as TikTok or Redbook, and also like a lot of the cannot name the apps. Taking Douyin as
Mhm.
example, it provides 新农人计划. We can translate it as a new farmer's plan. Once the content is tagged as a countryside or rural revitalization or the village, something
Mhm.
like that, the content can get more exposure on the apps. So actually, the government support or promote this kind of influences and content because they believe this kind of content will help the local rural villages to uh, sustainable development.
That's fantastic to hear. But like I mentioned before, in Korea, we do have sort of some rural areas that are very popular for tourists, but the
Mhm.
locals, they don't like it because either it becomes damaging to their area or there is, too many people around their house, etc. Has this had any damaging effect on regular rural farmers, do you think?
Yes, this is also happens in China, but I think different people living in different areas, they have different, how can I say, the life attitude or the life goal. Some people in China, they don't like the people to travel to their living place.
Hmm.
Uh, but some people, they prefer the capital, I mean the interests. They want to make their living place as a tourism industry.
Hmm.
So it's really hard to describe, but I will try.
Hmm.
For some of the very, very beautiful rural village like Hongcun in China,
Hmm.
we generally speaking, we say the tourists will be the people who are gazing the rural village. But
Hmm.
actually, according to my study, I found the local rural villagers, they are also gazing. They are gazing the tourists and also gazing the travel industry because they lack players in the in the village. You know,
Hmm.
during the daytime, they come to the village to start a job like the
Hmm.
small business.
Hmm.
But after the daytime, they will just like the people or finish the work and go to uh, the town
Hmm.
to their home because they have a new apartment there.
And just a quick question. Is it just domestic Chinese citizens going to the rural areas, or is it like people from other countries, are they also going to the rural areas?
I think for both, uh,
Ah, so
yeah.
both so I think Li Juqi she has a lot of international following as well.
Yes, especially for the 5A level, the scenery part. And Walter, could I explain more about the damaging effect on the regular rural farmers?
Of course.
Although I talked about a lot of the positive effects, but actually the damaging effects exist too. Based on my latest fieldwork, I did some research in the villages in Henan province. I found some of the influences have been over has been over manipulated by capital. I hesitate to say they are influencers now. I prefer to say they are businessmen or businesswomen rather
Mm,
than influencers. You know why? Because this kind of influencers, they hired the local rural farmers to do the business, like the live streaming e-commerce, like something like that,
mm,
for themselves. For a quite a remote and rural village, the
mm,
farmers maybe just plant some vegetables or coins to support themselves. But once the influencers came to their villages, they hired the local rural farmers to plant the rose,
mm,
and they have a huge rose yard.
mm,
However, this is just to be a beautiful scenery on
mm,
the live streaming broadcast.
mm,
But the influencers herself is not a local rural farmers. They are just say, oh, this kind is a good support to do business. That's why they come here to plant the rose. The rose industry doesn't fit the local character and doesn't fit the local industry chain.
ah,
So which means they are not sustainable. But I need more field work to figure this out later. That's what I want to say for the damaging effect on the regular rural farmers.
yes, I can imagine that the regular rural farmers would find that, I guess, angering when it comes to outside people making it a tourist attraction, but not sustainable at the same time. I can imagine that's very frustrating for the regular rural farmers. Just,
Mm.
I have one last question for you today, and that is, how have we seen Chinese rural influences evolve over time?
From the beginning, the rural influences maybe just show about the rural scenery and the lifestyle. But later, um, with the empowerment of the technology or the editing skills and also the entertainment topics, there are, you know, uh, under this genre of the Chinese rural influences, there are different branches. Um, for one of the quite popular branches is like Li Ziqi. It's quite beautiful and idyllic scenery and
Mm,
lifestyle. But the other one is maybe for uh, 巧妇,
mm,
七妹. Her videos is about the quite a reality one. What is the reality of the rural China? Her videos will show the reality. And the other one is like propaganda. It's like which kind of policy and what the government has done, and then the rural village developed better than before, something like that. Now I found a new one. It's about the um, across the generation. It's like the entertainment topics. Like the younger generation, when they have a holiday, they come back to the hometown, which is located in the rural village. Then they began to play the tricks on their parents or the grandparents,
mm.
like they play the badminton. Then because of the aging population, um, they have the uh, not their eyesight is not as good as young people. Then the baby just missing in the sky, like something like that. The entertainment topics. So, I think the branches are quite various, much various than before. That's a new. That's an involvement maybe.
Yes, I know that Li Chao or Che, sorry, Chi, I keep getting her name wrong, sorry. But I watched some of her videos, and what I found amazing was it was like a movie to watch.
Yes.
Her
Yes.
her videos were from different angles. They were shot in very good camera quality. Um, they showed, like the 20, 30 minute long videos, sometimes longer, of her
Yeah.
doing a task that is very, um, it's not just entertaining, it's also very relaxing to watch.
Yes.
And I can see why she is so popular. And now because I looked up her YouTube channel, her videos are always coming up on my YouTube. So I watch them a lot. She's very fascinating. But that's where we'll have to end today's podcast. And was there anything you would like to promote? Example, your future studies, your current works? Is there any
Yes.
things that you would like to talk about just before we leave today?
Yes. I would like to see the intangible cultural skills about the rural videos. There are a lot of subtypes, as I just talked to you. They have started evolve over the time. Now, the intangible cultural skills like how to painting or how to making the art craft and how to like the a lot of the Chinese traditional culture, the traditional Chinese culture. A lot of the rural village videos began to focus on this part. This is a new change. This is a new change, I think. Some of them pay attention on the editing techniques, except for Li Ziqi. You said her video is quite relaxing. But actually, there is another person you can search on TikTok, maybe on YouTube also. Name is Zhang Tongxue. His video use a lot of the editing techniques. A lot of the researchers, I mean the who are in the movie field, the moving editing field, they began to study and research on the Zhang Tongxue's editing techniques because quite fantastic. This is first one about the intangible culture skills. A lot of the rural villages, a lot of the rural village videos began to focus on this part. And I think this is also coherent with the policy because our President Xi, trying to say revitalization the rural culture and to be the cultural competence or something like that. The other one is maybe one of my future studies about the aging influencers. What I found there is quite differences about the aging influencer and the aging population's influencer. They have a huge differences for me. For the aging influencers, maybe they have gray hair and the wrinkled face. But they talk about the entertainment topics and they talk about they are using the young people's talking way and activity to show them. And aging populations influencers, no, that is another story. Yeah. For the Chinese people, I did my interview and I found actually they are middle-aged women and men. They play tricks on the aging population, sometimes the fake information. A lot of the aging populations has lose their wage and the salary because they see this kind of the videos. Yeah, so my next study will focus on this topic.
That's very fascinating to hear. I'd love one day to talk to you again about this topic as well, because I was unaware that like the elderly population in China were also becoming big influences as well, which
Mm.
gives me some confidence that maybe even when I turn 70 or 80, I could be an influencer. Who knows? But anyway, that was lovely to talk to you today. And if anyone has, or any of our listeners have any questions, you can find and on the IER Lab website. But thank you for listening for today's episode of the IER Lab podcast. Once again, thank you to our guest today, Anne. And until next time, you can
See you,
click.
Walter.
See you later, Anne, and we'll talk to you hopefully sometime in the future. And you may click
Okay.
on your next adventure now.